Oh, absolutely. What does someone call it? The heavy metal of the opera world, Wagner. And you get it.
Yes.
And you can see why a lot of kind of rock musicians, especially like a lot of Germanic kind of metal.
Yeah.
But the way the chord structure and the way you can see why they love that particular.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. What are we going to do? We can't be on stage at the moment. So very special. I contacted you in the first place before all this craziness began was I felt like we were kind of in the same situation or a similar situation of becoming Wagnerian singers, becoming dramatics, or just finally getting to grips with the fact that we are dramatics, because I think you are or you're not. And just starting out in a new repertoire and finding your way in this planet of Wagnerland.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just, I thought it would be interesting, putting us together, because we're not we're not singers who've done it for 20 years already, but we've had other careers with other rep before that. We're opera singers. We've been around. We've been doing things, but we're entering this new world and trying to learn it. And I thought that would be a nice thing. We could put together a program, and I was going to be up in London rehearsing anyway throughout the spring, and we could put together a program. We could get together. We could rehearse. We could do all these things, and then in July we could have this lovely little concert in a lovely little venue. And then we know what happened.
Beautiful venue.
It's 2020. We know what happened. How did you find out that you could sing Wagner, or that you should have been singing Wagner? So go.
I think it come over time, like yourself. You experimented with different kind of repertoire, and I remember going to have a session with Michael Pollock, and he saying, "I'm still not convinced with the repertoire that you're working on." Before that, I had lessons with Dennis O'Neill, and must be going back 10 years. And I remember singing Ricondita Armonia, and Dennis said, "I'm not convinced you're Italianator." He said, "At some point, you will possibly sing the German repertoire." I thought, I'm not sure and all that. Because I've still, again, as things went on, different repertoire, different companies, and I never thought of it until I say about 2 years ago, was just trying out some Siegmund with Michael Pollock, and he said, "I'm not convinced yet." So he sent me then to a teacher, and he said, "Yes, this is the repertoire to go with." So again, I started kind of playing around, getting different repertoire. Started working with Kelvin Lim.
Yep.
I had a session there. I'm lucky living in Cardiff. I had access to Anthony Negus, just kind of over the mountain, and his wife Carmen with a German. She taught me German in college, and things started to fall in place. So I remember Michael saying, "No, you probably should sing to the Wagner people." So again, from there, got the auditions, and people said, "Oh, this is great. This really suits you." So then I went to have lessons with Anthony Roden, which is doing the thing. And he said, "You should have been doing this ages ago." But at 48, I thought, "No, this is the perfect time." And people said, "Yeah, this is the perfect time for you. Maybe if you'd done it earlier, you would have gone completely haywire." But I'm very pleased. And although it's been the pandemic, it's given me time to focus on kind of what I need to do. Still had lessons online, but I'm really excited. I'm positive.
Not afraid to do contemporary music. Those are my calling cards.
Yeah.
And it was because I was doing something that didn't have crazy high notes in it, and someone who'd never met me before heard me sing and said, and it was Mozart, but it wasn't the Queen of Night. And this guy said, "Why are you singing Mozart? Your voice is too big for Mozart. You should be singing Wagner." And I just kind of stared at him like he had to read that. Like, what, me? No way, that's not my kind of rep. I would never. Oh God, those people are superhuman. I can't do that. Then it brought it to a coach that I knew well and had known me for years, and said, "Do you really think there's anything to this?" Because and she works at the Met, so she'll know from the real voices. And she said, "Yeah, why not?" And yeah, so I sought out some specialist coaches over here and had a few sessions and auditioned for the Master Singers group, to see what they thought. And yeah, so it's a new adventure, but I find it very strange at this stage in my career, because I've been singing for over 20 years. And especially as a female singer, as a soprano, there is a certain amount of ageism that kicks in
Sure.
at this point in the career, because unless you've become a huge star, you just, nobody's interested in you after a certain age. And all the roles are for young women, whereas men get to play old blokes, old farts
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
as they go along. It's, I mean, the whole art form is a bit imbalanced in that way. But I'm finding, you know, people actually, you know, casting me and using me even now, because Wagnerian singers are more rare, just like Queens of the Night are rare. The Wagnerian singer, the Wagnerian voice is rare. And like you said, maybe it's best that no one noticed when I was in my 30s and no one pointed me in that direction, because I might have burned it
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
Might have pushed it too hard. It might not have been, you need that stamina that you learn from years and years and years of singing.
Nicht ein Lüftchen regt sich leise, sanft entschlummert ruht der Hain. Durch die Blätter dunkle Höhe stillt sich lichter Sonnenschein. Ruhe, meine Seele, deine Stürme gingen wild, hast getobt und hast gezittert, wie die Brandung, wenn sie schwillt. Diese Zeiten sind gewaltig, bringen Held und Hin in Not. Ruhe, meine Seele, und vergiss, was dich bedroht.
A very famous kind of Heldentenor, and he said, "What?" And the question was put. I said, "So what got you the stamina?" And he bizarrely had played Piangi in a Broadway production of Phantom of the Opera, and he said, "If it wasn't for that," he said, "I wouldn't have built up stamina." He said, "I learned my craft." He said, 8 shows a week, and I thought, "Wow, I played Piangi in a London production."
Yeah.
And it was interesting that he kind of brought that up and said, "Yeah, that was a massive kind of challenge, because you just had to kind of be on your wits. You had to know how much you were singing." And again, with the Piangi's, it wasn't mic'd, so that was a big thing. But I thought,
wow.
this is
Yeah.
great. And again, he was a baritone in his younger days. I was a baritone. And it seems to be this journey that baritones that have that kind of, maybe have that hefty weight to the voice, struggle with the Italian repertoire. And again, I remember talking to Graham Clark about it, and he said, "Oh, he never felt happy singing the Italian repertoire. But as soon as he went into that kind of Germanic thing, he said, I feel at home." And that was the same with myself. It just felt, I remember saying to Calvin, "This fits like a glove." And he said, "Yeah, I can hear it fits like a glove." I thought, I must be onto something here.
Yeah. I mean, people had said, "Oh, your Italian's not Italian enough," or your voice isn't lyric enough, or you sound more German, and it was an insult. They meant it as a bad thing, and I thought, well, there's plenty of German rap. What's wrong with having a German sounding voice? There's loads of opera houses in Germany, but it was just like the ideal. Everyone wants to be this Italianate singer, and I loved Verdi, but I was never really that interested in singing Puccini. Strangely, loved Verdi, and I loved singing Donizetti roles, and the sort of coloratura, Ina Etta type things, and those are fun, but I never dreamt of. I've got a Man in Butterfly poster behind me. That's just because the poster was interesting, not because I wanted to sing Butterfly. That just never turned me on in that way, which I got that sort of musical excitement from doing modern rap.
Work with you on the Grand Macabre for English National Opera. You've got that ability of being actor, that stage animal instinct, which you're very good at. And again, that leads to that kind of more dramatic, or kind of the drama side of the Wagner, which is again another bow to your string to your bow. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's that through composition as well, which he was kind of that tipping point from the Romantic era into what happened in the 20th century with all this experimental and expressionistic and every other kind of thing. He changed the art form, and then that kind of split it open for everyone to go off in their various directions and do some really experimental stuff. But in some ways he is kind of modern, but there's something also there's a lot of baggage with it as well that we should acknowledge. There's a lot of the kind of the stereotype of the breastplates and the horns, but actually it's not all like that, and it's such a huge influence on everything else. You can't deny it exists. I mean, there's a lot of controversy, there's a lot of political baggage as well, because very unpleasant people became big fans of his as well after he was gone. Not his fault, he wasn't there anymore, but when you listen to it, you can hear all the film composers that have ever written.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hugely influenced by it. There's so much interesting sound in that, and the dramas themselves are amazing. The thing that kind of baffles me is, what did all the Wagnerian singers do before Wagner came along? Because if you have an instrument like this and nobody was writing any music for you,
yeah,
like, did you try to squeeze yourself into the Monteverdi, or how did you? Yes, it kind of calls into question all these rules and these ideas of what kind of voices sing what repertoire, because genes don't change that quickly. Evolution doesn't happen in just a couple hundred years or even 400 years. These voices must have existed. And
that's a brilliant question. I've never thought of that before.
So what did they do? What did they everyone thought they were too loud compared to everybody else, or you don't know, or maybe they just all the Heldentenors had to be baritones, and all the dramatic sopranos had to be mezzos, I guess. I don't know. So it's a funny old thing, and just sort of exploring that question. And in Wagner's time, were they the same kind of voices, or are we training our voices to be that way, or is it something to do with technique, or so there's all these questions, and sort of the evolution of a Wagnerian singer is really what I was looking at. It's like, where did you start, where did I start, you know, and also the evolution of that kind of an operatic voice, because it must have been edging there, because Verdi's pretty big too sometimes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He was influenced by Wagner too, so there'd be influences going both ways, that there would be people singing with a fuller sound when you got into the high romantic era, and then Wagner coming along and messing everybody's head up.
And thing. There was a great quote, one of a doctor put online, which I thought was amazing, and it was, "Science will cure us, but art will heal us." I thought, that's amazing. That was the best kind of thing I've read on Twitter for ages, and it summed it up. And it sums it up all that the Wagner fans and this music. I'm really excited about it, to be honest with you. I was gutted when our concerts kind of fell through, and again we had the second book down, and I spoke to Kelvin, and Kelvin was really kind of gutted about it. But I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, we can rearrange this, because there's so. I did an interview with regards, I'm going to mention long COVID last week, for the BBC, and and it was like a documentary to be aired over Christmas about recovery.
Yeah.
And they were more interested about the concerts, or promoting the concerts coming up, and listening about the Wagner kind of repertoire.
Yeah.
So how did you get into it? And it was really interesting. But again, they were dying to get on the thing. When are people going to get back into the theatres? It was amazing.
Yeah.